Okay, this is the Code of Judicial Conduct. People, somebody gave me a comment about, just because I read the law doesn't make me a lawyer. Compared, said if I read a medical journal and about what doctors do, does that make me a doctor? No, that doesn't make you a doctor. But if you cure somebody, yeah, I'll say, hey, I didn't go to law school, but I can read. That's all it takes is reading. My reading comprehension level is, I guess, above average. But then again, all this is in layman's terms, so I never found it hard to comprehend. I told people when they told me they didn't understand the law, I assumed they couldn't read. I told them, get you a fifth grader. You know any fifth graders? This one woman had a grandchild that was in fifth grade. I said, bring your fifth grader, and we'll have that fifth grader read this to you. Because, see, when the younger you are, the more you'll understand what you see is what you get. And people tend to rely on lawyers and judges to tell them what this means. Many of lawyers and some judges have told me I didn't understand the law until I mentioned the letter of the law, as long as it remains within the confines of the letter of the law. What? Excuse me? Yes, as long as you don't violate the letter of the law. Okay, so that's all I'm doing. I'm going by the letter of the law by reading this to you, word for word to the letter. That's the letter of the law. Okay, all this must be done word for word to the letter. That's the letter of the law. It's a legal mandate. It's the law. The letter of the law is the law. The Code of Judicial Conduct, a set of ethical rules and guidelines that judges must follow, aims to ensure the integrity, impartiality, and independence of the judiciary and maintain public trust in the judicial system. The American Bar Association Model Code of Judicial Conduct serves as the framework for many states and federal jurisdictions. I told you before, a lot of states have removed some rules from the rules of professional conduct. They have also played with the Code of Judicial Conduct, so always refer to the American Bar Association Model Code of Judicial Conduct and the Rules of Professional Conduct and compare it to what your state to see what your state is depriving you of, because no state has the right to deprive you any of the rules, any of the codes as set forth by the American Bar Association as a deprivation of rights. That's an ethical violation, and it says quite clearly in the preamble, everything must be done in the public interest, not in the interest of the bar or parochial interests. Okay, and that's in the interest of the bar, so you can't use it against them. And so that's why I tell a lot of people, you're going to have to compare to the American Bar Association. You got to talk to people in almost every state. I think except for Alaska and Hawaii. I don't remember talking to anybody there. Okay, here is more detailed breakdown. Key principles and purpose, integrity, and independence. Judges must uphold the integrity of the judiciary and maintain the independence from political and other undue influences. This is a mandatory, folks. Okay, this is law. Impartiality. Judge must be fair and unbiased in all their judicial proceedings. I bet you're laughing, aren't you? When I used to tell people this, they used to laugh at me. But now that I'm reading it to you, you're probably still laughing. But this is the law, okay? Before I used to have to, shoot from the hip. I didn't have the money for these books, and a lot of stuff I didn't copy, and just kind of committed it to memory. But people didn't believe me. But now here we are. I'm reading it to you word for word to the letter. Okay, avoiding partiality. Judges must avoid conduct both on and off the bench. Both on and off the bench, folks. That could be seen as compromising or undermining the judiciary. Okay, extrajudicial activities. While judges may engage in extrajudicial activities, they must ensure that such activities do not conflict with their judicial obligations. Diligent. Just must be diligent in performing their duties and ensuring the fair and timely resolution of cases. Okay, so remember I talked to you about a quick and speedy trial. Here I'll tell you that's only in criminal cases, but what is this telling you here? Judges must be diligent in performing their duties and ensuring the fair and timely resolution of cases. Okay, and it also tells you that in the rules of professional conduct, as well as the lawyers, they have to be diligent, expedite litigation, that will be competent, and they must communicate that to you. Okay, those are 4 laws: communication, competent, diligent, expediting litigation. Those are laws, and that's not happening. Public trust. The code aims to foster public confidence in the judiciary by promoting ethical conduct and transparency. Most of you don't trust the legal system, and you go over the rules and the codes, you'll trust them even less. And you could use this against them. These are all laws, okay? It's impossible just to violate one rule or one code. You violate one, you violate multiple. You violate the Code of Judicial Conduct, you violate the rules of professional conduct. You violate the rules of professional conduct, you didn't. You violate the Code of Judicial Conduct. They are interwoven. You cannot break the rules without breaking the codes. And this is effective assistance of counsel guaranteed in the Sixth Amendment of the United States Constitution. And no state can violate that, because any law that is not conducive, any law that's repugnant the United States Constitution is null and void, cannot exist, said Thurgood Marshall. I forgot what year, but that was a long time ago. Okay, so no, state law cannot override no, their laws can't override federal laws. That was agreed upon when the Constitution was written. Okay. Judges must recuse themselves from cases where they have conflicts of interest, such as personal bias, financial interest, or prior involvement. And that doesn't happen. I mean, the U.S. Supreme Court is notorious for doing that. But see, they say we don't have a code of conduct, but that was redacted or retracted back, I forgot in what year, in the 60s. And that was in the interest of the bar. That was not in the public interest. And as you well know, in the preamble of the rules of professional conduct, says everything must be done in the public interest and not interest of the bar or parochial interest. If they would abide by that law, Roe versus Wade wouldn't have been overturned. Roe versus Wade was created in the public interest because women were getting abortions, and those abortions were killing them, and these weren't even medical experts that were doing this, and women were being conned and dying, and they didn't die, they were left infertile. There were so many different reasons women do what they do, and as a man, I'm not going to complicate their life by deciding what they can and cannot do with their body. All right. As a Christian, I am opposed to it, but in my opinion, I'll leave that up to God. Let Him decide. Okay, recusal just must recuse themselves from cases where they have conflict of interest, such as personal bias, financial interest, or prior involvement. Financial interest. Judges must disclose any financial interest that could create a conflict of interest. Extrajudicial activities. Judges can engage in teaching, writing, public service, and other activities, but they must ensure that these activities do not impair their independence or impartiality. Political activity. Judges are generally prohibited from participating in political activities such as campaigning for political office. Social media. The code addresses the use of social media and other electronic communications, emphasizing the importance of avoiding impropriety and the appearance of impropriety. Misuse of judicial titles. Judge must not misuse their judicial title to gain personal advantage or influence. Illinois Code of Judicial Conduct. Okay, I'm in Illinois, so that's why this has come up. The Illinois Supreme Court adopted a new Code of Judicial Conduct in 2022, which is based on the American Bar Model Code. Enforcement and Oversight Judicial Inquiry Board and commissions. Many jurisdictions have bodies that investigate and handle complaints of judicial misconduct. Yes, they do, but they don't do anything. I filed with the Judicial Inquiry Board. Now it's the Illinois Judicial Inquiry Board. In the 80s, almost every year in the 80s, a few times. And every time I filed with the ARDC, Attorney Registration Disciplinary Commission. And when I would file, I would always cite all of my lawyers. I cited the lawyers violating the rule of professional conduct and his failure to report misconduct because the state's attorney did not report him for ineffective assistance of counsel, and he didn't report the state's attorney or the judge for not reporting him because reporting misconduct is mandatory in the rules and the codes. So so I cited the state's attorney for prosecutorial misconduct because the state's attorney didn't report my lawyer for all the violations of the rules of professional conduct, which is ineffective assistance of counsel, and specifically failure to report misconduct because he's supposed to report my lawyer for failure to report misconduct that the state's attorney failed to report him, and he failed to report the judge for judicial misconduct. So, I mean, the way it's set up, everybody's supposed to report each other and themselves as well, okay? So I always thought it horribly easy, but people just don't understand it because they won't read what when I tell them to read. And that's rules and the codes, and you'll see how they're interconnected. And the way they're interconnected, because it says reporting is misconduct. And you read that, it'll tell you that, if a lawyer knows of any lawyers or any judges violating the rules or the codes, they must report it. Reporting misconduct is mandatory. Failure to report misconduct is misconduct. And nobody reports misconduct. Nobody reports each other themselves. So that shows you they conspired to deprive you of your constitutional rights. And you just thought it was legal because it was lawyers and judges that did it, which made it under the color of law. You just thought it was legal because the legal system did it to you, but they broke the laws in order to get you where you are, no matter what court you're in. Civil, criminal, child custody, probate, guardianship, okay? So all you need to do is read the rules and the code. But let's continue. Illinois Courts Commission, the Illinois Courts Commission.gov provides a guidance of code oversees the implementation of disciplinary actions. I'm going to file against them again, but see, I need an audience to make this happen. Otherwise, they're just going to ignore me. They've been ignoring me forever. In essence, the Code of Judicial Conduct serves as a guide for ethical behavior, ensuring that judges act with integrity, impartiality, diligence, thereby maintaining the public trust in the justice system. Okay, we're going to go to the... Hold on. Constitutional authority, Code of Judicial Conduct, preamble and scope. Okay. An independent, fair, and impartiality judiciary is indispensable in our justice system. Okay, you should really read this. Judge should maintain the dignity of judicial office and avoid both impropriety and the appearance of impropriety. Just the appearance alone is violating the codes. They should aspire at all times to conduct that ensures the greatest possible public confidence in their independence, partiality, integrity, and competence. Code established standard for ethical conduct of judges. So remember, if they fail to abide by the Code of Judicial Conduct, whether it's any part of the preamble, because if they violate the code, any code, they're violating everything that's in the preamble. Okay, let's go. Where are we at? Okay, remember I told you about the public trust, that they are trustees. See, it says right here. Includes relationships with executor, administrator, trustee, or guardian. They're trustees as well as lawyers and politicians, of the public trust, the court systems, your water quality, your air quality, the quality of the land on which you live, So says the public trust doctrine. Look up the public trust doctrine. Partiality, partial, means absence of bias or prejudice in favor or against particular parties or classes of parties, as well as maintenance of an open mind considering issues that may come before the judge. See Canons 1, 2, and 4, and Rules 1.2, 2.2, 2.10, 2.11, 2.13, 3.1, 3.12, 4.1, and 4.3. Okay, integrity. Okay. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't happen. Canon 1, a judge shall uphold, promote independence, integrity, and impartiality. Judge shall avoid impropriety and appearance of impropriety in all judges' activities. Comments, independent, honored judiciary is indispensable for creating preservation of public trust and confidence in the legal system. The code shall be construed and applied to further objectives. Rule 1.1, compliance with the law. A judge shall comply with the law, including the code. Code of Judicial Conduct, the rules of professional conduct, the laws that we have to face. You know how it comes to what, this thing among public servants they call professional courtesy, and they allow each other to move along the way, because, hey, we're public servants, so they allow each other public professional courtesy, which is showing bias, prejudice, favoritism, nepotism. Compliance with the law. A judge shall comply with the law, including the codes. Promoting confidence in the judiciary. Comments. Public confidence in the judiciary is eroded by improper conduct. Conduct that creates the appearance of impropriety. You ever hear of a judge citing a lawyer for violating the rules of professional conduct? I did one time, and that's what set me on the path to find the rules and the codes. Okay, a judge should expect the subject to be subject to public scrutiny that might be viewed as burdensome if applied by other citizens, except the restrictions imposed by the codes. Okay, avoiding misuse, prestige of judicial office. A judge shall not misuse the prestige of judicial office to advance the personal or economic interests of the judge or others, or allow others to do so. Imagine if the United States Supreme Court actually had a code of judicial conduct. Them not having one is under the color of law. It's not in the public interest. It's improper to use or attempt to use a judge's position to gain personal advantage or deferential treatment of any kind. For example, will be improper to allude to judicial status to gain favorable treatment in encounters with traffic officials. Simply, a judge must not use a judicial title in letterhead, emails, or any forms of communication, including social media, social networking platforms, to gain an advantage in conducting personal business. Bet you didn't know that. Judges must provide a reference or recommendation for an endo based on the judge's personal knowledge. Okay, judge will perform his duties of judicial office impartially, competently, and diligently, giving precedence of the duties of judicial office. Duties of judicial office as prescribed by law shall take precedence over all of the judge's personal and extrajudicial activities. Okay, to ensure the judges are available to fulfill their judicial duties, judges must conduct their personal and extrajudicial activities, include their use of social media or participation on social networking or platforms, to minimize the risk of conflicts that result in frequent disqualification. So a judge shall a lot you could use against them. A judge shall uphold and apply the law and shall perform all duties of judicial office fairly and impartially. Good faith errors or fact of law does not violate this rule. That rarely, no, you wouldn't. You'd just be using everything. They knowingly and willingly violate the Code of Judicial Conduct by failure to report misconduct in a court of law by your attorney, the opposing party. Bias, prejudice, harassment. The judge shall perform the duties judicial office without bias or prejudice. The judge shall not, in the performance of judicial duties by words or conduct, manifest bias or prejudice, engage in harassment, including but not limited to bias, prejudice, harassment based upon race, sex, gender identity. I try to tell people I'm not part of that community, the LGBT community, that they're making a lot of laws because of your gender identity. They can't do that. But nobody's telling you. But if you read the Code of Judicial Conduct, the judges will be telling them, hey, you can't make a law that says don't say gay because, it's against the law. Creating laws about, no, they're U.S. citizens, LGBT community, if you got lawyers in your community, I don't know why they're not telling you this, or I don't know why any lawyer is not telling you this. The preamble tells you they're supposed to let you know about stuff like this in the rules of professional conduct. Manifest bias, prejudice, or engage in harassment, including that, but not limited to bias, prejudice, based upon race. I've always been, that part's always hit me hard. Sex, gender identity, religion. I've seen people come down hard on because of the religion. National origin. See? National origin, people. Ethnicity, pregnancy, disability, age, sexual orientation, marital status, those laws that they're making, and women won't be able to vote because of their marital status. Their name and their married name doesn't match with the name on their birth certificate. That's not in the public interest, folks. It's not in the public interest, and it's not in the interest of these women. Socioeconomic status, being poor or rich, and as we well know, the scales of justice are a monetary scale. You're worth your weight in gold. If you don't have the gold, you get sold into a life of indentured servitude. Or political affiliation, and shall not permit court staff, court officials, or other subjects to the judge's discretion and control to do so. That means anybody in the court, lawyers. They should be telling them, hey, you can't do that. Why are you even bothering me with this? If I was a judge, I would bitch slap them like it was the hand of God. Okay, proceedings before the court shall be conducted without manifesting bias or prejudice or engaging in harassment based upon attributes including but not limited to race, sex, gender identity, religion, national origin, ethnicity, pregnancy, disability, age, sexual orientation, marital status, socioeconomic status, or political affiliation by or against lawyers, parties, witnesses, or others. These restrictions of paragraph B and C do not preclude judges or lawyers from making legitimate references to listed factors or similar factors when they are relevant to an issue of proceedings. A judge shall not retaliate against those who report violations of Rule 2.3. I was left for dead for trying to My lawyer ran and told the judge, hey, he's going to come out here and he says mandatory, reporting misconduct is mandatory in the rules and the codes, and he wants to put it on the record, and I wasn't allowed back in court. Not long afterwards, I was beaten to death. Nearly died. I wanted to die. I was in so much pain for so long. But that's besides the point. This is law, people. Whole bunch of laws you can use against them, okay? A judge who manifests bias or prejudice in a proceeding impairs the fairness of the proceeding and brings the judiciary into disrepute. I hope you're having fun listening. And for those that are laughing at me because, you don't know the law because you're not a lawyer. Listen, my academic credentials don't exceed that of a GED, but I've helped many people in so many different courts using a whole lot of laws. I don't have to be a lawyer or judge to read, to understand the law. I'm quite sure anybody and everybody listening is understanding me right now. Why? Because I'm reciting the law. I'm reading it word for word to the letter. And I would strongly advise you not to try to reinterpret this law. That would be a violation of law. That's disinformation. I'm holding you to the letter of the law, as you should I. Harassment is verbal, nonverbal, or physical contact that degenerates or shows hostility or aversion toward a person based on characteristics classified. I was talking to some guy, he's getting harassed because he testified in a whistleblower case, and the whistleblower won and got money, but he's facing retaliatory measures from the entities that he testified against. Harassment based on sex includes but not limited to sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other or verbal or physical contact of sexual nature. Okay, external influences on judicial conduct. A judge shall not be swayed by the public clamor or fear of criticism. Like taking orders from the president. You take orders from the law. Remember, you are working within the public trust. You not only have to work for the public's trust, but the legal system is part of the public trust. It belongs to the people, we the people, the courts, the laws, and you are legally obligated to abide by these laws. It's a binding contract, unnegotiable, non-negotiable. You do this. This is your job, people. That's competence, diligence, and cooperation. A judge shall perform judicial duty, administrative duties competently and diligently. Thus, again, a quick and speedy trial. Look up a quick and speedy trial, and it'll give you the limitations on a quick and speedy trial, and if they exceed those limitations, the case gets tossed. It's null and void. They can no longer charge you. And you have to wonder, why is nobody telling you that? It's your right, but they don't give it to you. They won't offer it to you, and you won't get it unless you demand it. Okay, simple as that. You have to demand all this, quick and speedy trial, effective assistance of counsel, fair trial, due process. This is part of due process, my friends. Competence in the performance of judicial duties require the legal knowledge, skill, thoroughness, preparation, reasonable, necessary to perform the judge's responsibilities, ensuring the right to be heard. And judges always yell at people. Talk to your lawyer. Let your lawyer talk to me. But see, you're complaining about your lawyer, and they won't let you complain about your lawyer. They won't let you get it on the record. So you might I've done this before. Judges tried to shut me down, and some people I helped out, they tried to shut them down, and the judge, they said, no, I have a right to speak. And the judge, what gives you that? Here we go. Ensuring the right to be heard. A judge shall accord to every person who has legal interest in a proceeding or that a person's lawyer the right to be heard according to the law. B. A judge may encourage parties to a proceeding and their lawyers to settle matters in dispute, but the judge shall not act in a manner that coerces any party. That happened to me. The judge didn't care. He told me, I just take what I'm giving you and get the hell out of here in my workman's comp case. My lawyer literally threw the case. If I hadn't opened my mouth, I wouldn't have got anything. The right to be heard is an essential component of a fair trial and an impartial system of justice. Substantive rights of litigants can be protected only if procedures protecting the right to be heard are observed. Like when that judge had the sheriffs beat me to death. That was just to keep me for citing the judge for judicial misconduct, the state's attorney for prosecutorial misconduct, my lawyer for ineffective assistance of counsel, everybody's failure to report misconduct because reporting misconduct is mandatory. Nobody did it. Nobody reported each other because everybody was breaking every law in the court of law, thus proving a conspiracy against rights under the color of law. The FBI and the DOJ has a special division, civil rights division, that specifically deals with a conspiracy against rights under the color of law. That's a legal term, folks. Just Google it, a conspiracy against rights under the color of law. Okay. Judges should be mindful of the effect settlement discussions may have on their objectivity and partiality and the appearance of their objectivity and impartiality. Despite the judge's best efforts, there may be instances when information during settlement discussions could influence the judge's decision-making during trial. Decorum, demeanor, and communication with jurors. A judge shall require order and decorum in proceedings before the court. That means no being some snotty-ass, loudmouth bully. A judge shall be patient, dignified, and courteous to litigants. They only do that if there's cameras in the courts. Courteous to litigants, jurors, witnesses, lawyers, court staff, court officials, and other whom the judge deals in an official capacity, and should require similar conduct of lawyers, court staff, court officials, and others subject to the judge's discretion and control. They don't do that. I was attacked, handicapped, attacked from behind, and the judge threw it out. Who the hell attacks a handicapped man? Bust him in the back of the head with brass knuckles. The judge said he had every right to do it. Judge shall not commend or criticize jurors for the verdict other than in court order opinion in a proceeding. Okay, so jurors, you ain't got to put up with that, okay? Duty to hear all proceedings with patience and courtesy is not inconsistent with duty imposed by Rule 2.5. Ex parte communications happens all the time. A judge shall not initiate, permit, or consider ex parte communications, or consider other communications the judge outside the presence of parties or their lawyers concerning a proceeding or pending matter, except as follows. People, when I told you, people that I helped with criminal cases, when I told them that, to demand a probable cause hearing, it's rare that judges will allow it. It's rare that your attorney will even bring it up. And they get pissed off and they yell at the defendants. I actually got cited for contempt of court without saying a word because the lawyers always told on me, pointed me out. Plus, I had a consistency of sitting in the front row, right in front. And that's because I can't hear so good. I'm old. Or I'm older, but it's just crazy. But anyways, public defender told this kid, hey, sign this and you can go. And I told the kid, see, I told you would do that. He said, what do you mean sign this, I can go? I says, what is this? He says, is this a misdemeanor? And the lawyer said, no. And I said, no, that's a felony, right? And so that's ineffective assistance of counsel. So the lawyer went and told the judge got pissed off. There was a conference between the judge, the state's attorney, and the public defender. And they held the kid till the end of the day, and the only ones left in the room were me and him, public defender and the state's attorney. Judge started yelling at me, what are you doing here? What do you want here? I'm just a spectator. I'm a jaffo. He didn't ask what a jaffo is. It has to do with being an observer. And he said, I see where this is going. You want a probable cause here. I know where this is going. This is going to trial. And the public defender asked a couple of questions, inconsequential questions, and the judge moved it on to trial. What was it, Karen? He was mad because that kid didn't sign that piece of paper. He was supposed to report the public defender for ineffective assistance of counsel. The prosecutorial misconduct. Wait a minute, here's a charge they're pushing forward that they can't even prove, but they want the kid to sign off on a case that they can't prove. It's a scare tactic. That's all it is. It's just to beef up their statistics. But anyway, ex parte communications, you may want to go through that. It tells you all kinds of stuff they can't do. Judicial statements on pending and impeding cases. A judge shall not make any public statement about a matter pending or impending. Let's see. I'm telling people there's a lot of stuff here. Administrative appointments and hiring. I'm telling you, people, you would not believe in nepotism in courtrooms. It's like a family in there, and even if they're not, you better act like it, The judge is God in that courtroom. You can ask any judge, I'm God, I can do anything. No laws abide to me. I don't care about laws. I'm going to do not all judges are like that, but the ones I've been up against, they disregarded the rules, the codes, the rule of law, letter of the law. No ethics, a lack of. Okay, folks, but there you go. Okay, I just want to discuss the Code of Judicial Conduct. Okay, Illinois, it's called the Judicial Inquiry Board. Okay, I read this to you. Okay, but whatever state you're in, when you type in Code of Judicial Conduct, it'll come up for your state. Every state has a different name for the agency that you'll have to file a complaint with. So Google Code of Judicial Conduct complaint form. And same thing with the Rules of Professional Conduct complaint form. Okay, and just read the rules and the codes. It's no harder than understanding anything that I read to you. I don't try to give you my definition of what I think it means to you. I'm just reading it to you. That's all. And I'm using the letter of the law in my reiteration. Okay, so remember, letter of the law requires all this to be done word for word to the letter. It's a legal requirement. Okay, so much for me not being a judge or a lawyer or having a law degree and going to law school, and I've been chased out of some of the finest law libraries. Yeah, you don't find the books I read in your regular libraries. No. A lot of digging. Maybe understand why education is so expensive. So only a select few, a certain class of people have control of the judicial system. And thus far, I've proven to you what your living is under the color of law. That's what I'm trying to stop. My people, we the people, from living under the color of law. Thank you for listening. What I did for me, I did for we. Every time I filed, it was always in the name of we the people. I am many, we are one. When I speak for the many. And as the Constitution requires, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Look it up. It says, what does just Google, what does the Constitution say about the public trust? I already did a video on that if you wanted. I did a lot of videos. Try to keep them as short as possible, under an hour. Some of them are 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, but that's up to you. This is everything you need to know. Not everything you need, but there's a lot more. There's a lot of stuff you need to know, and that's why I keep posting different stuff about what you need to know. Because, without you having a law degree, without you having a license to practice law, without you having the legal knowledge, reasonable knowledge to make an informed decision, to give informed consent, you'll never see due process. You'll never have a fair trial. You'll never have effective assistance of counsel. Makes the 14th Amendment, the Due Process Clause, worthless. And as much as I love the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, I'd hate to be the bearer of sad tidings that this isn't happening. But if you've ever been in a court of law, and you don't know what's going on, that's wrong. And I'm trying to teach you how to find out. Okay, that's all. I've been accused by some lawyers of practicing law and what can happen to me. I'm not practicing law. No, I just teach people the legal obligations of all lawyers and judges. Okay? That's all. And explaining to you, the oath, the oath they took, to the Constitution. Now I'm showing you all the requirements of the Constitution, all the things they're supposed to be doing. And there's a whole lot of laws I talk about on legal reform. And it's a lot of stuff that's not happening. And like I said, I just read it to you, okay? These are laws I know about, I've known about. Take advantage of my disadvantage. To me, back in the day, it was an advantage, the Dewey Decimal System. Books. As a child, I grew a love for literature. The older I got, the more intense it got. My love turned into a lust and somewhat of an intellectual fetish to know the law and how to use it. Read it and use it. Okay? There's plenty of things you should know about that I've been trying to tell you about. And legal reform isn't about me, it's about we the people. Every time I used to step into court, lawyers would tell me, who the hell do you think you are? Say, we the people. Because when it comes to we the people, I am many, How many of us are there? I'm your bus driver, your truck driver, your butcher, your baker,
last but least, me, the candlestick maker. It takes but one candle to light the path in the darkest of rooms. Let me show you the way. I'm here for you. And it's not me, it's the law. I'm just showing you the law, okay? You're me, I'm you. You know, this is you. This is your stuff, you know. This belongs to you. These are your rights, your constitutional rights. I mean, when you want to talk about the Bill of Rights, I want to talk about your civil rights. I want to talk about your birthrights as a United States citizen. And that's all I talk about. Because when I look at you, all I see when I look at each and every one of you is we the people. God bless. May the Creator rain many blessings. Wishing you a long life and good health.